Most F-150 Lightning owners did not find out their truck was discontinued from Ford. They found out from a headline, or a forum post, or a dealer who suddenly got very quiet during a trade-in conversation. On December 15, 2025, buried inside a press release announcing a next-generation truck, Ford's president of Blue and Model E said it plainly. "We actually ended production of the 2025 model year Lightning just this month." Just this month. No press conference, no goodbye, no warning to the people holding 72-month loans on trucks that were already worth less than what they owed. The all-electric F-150 Lightning lasted exactly 3.5 years on the market, and the owners who trusted Ford's most famous promise, that this was going to be the most important truck since the Model T, are the ones absorbing a financial hit that nobody warned them was coming. Here is everything that happened, in the order it happened, and what it means right now for every Lightning owner in America. In May 2021, Ford CEO Jim Farley stood in front of the Rouge Electric Vehicle Center in Dearborn, Michigan, and made a commitment to American truck buyers. The F-150 Lightning would start under $40,000. It would run your house during a blackout. It would pull 10,000 pounds. It would do everything the gas F-150 did, and it would do it on electricity. 200,000 Americans placed reservations in the first 2 days. Ford sold out its first 2 model years before a single truck rolled off the line. The hype was not manufactured, it was real, it was earned, and it was met with genuine enthusiasm by people who had driven F-150s their entire lives. That promise, under $40,000, was the foundation of everything. It was what made the Lightning feel accessible, not experimental. Not a luxury item, not a Tesla. A working truck, at a working truck price. Ford never delivered that truck. The 2022 Lightning launched at $39,974 for the base Pro. Within 2 months of that announcement, Ford raised the price $7,000. 2 months after that, another $5,000. By the time most reservation holders received delivery, the base truck cost $53,769. The fully loaded Platinum started at $96,874. Buyers who had reserved at $40,000 were paying $55,000, $70,000, $80,000. Many paid those prices anyway because they had been waiting 2 years, because they believed in the truck, and because Ford's own CEO had compared it to the Model T. Ford's explanation was supply chain costs and inflation. That is partially true. What it does not explain is what happened next, because the moment demand cooled, the price started moving again, this time in the other direction. In July 2023, Ford cut prices by up to $10,000. In January 2024, they raised prices again with the XLT jumping $6,500 in a single announcement. In April 2024, another cut, up to $5,500 off. The price of the F-150 Lightning moved in 5 significant directions in less than 3 years. Here is why that matters to used market owners. Every time Ford cuts the price of a new Lightning, the value of every used Lightning already on the road drops with it. You cannot own a $75,000 truck and expect to trade it in at $60,000 when the dealer next door is selling the same truck new for $70,000. The price volatility did not just hurt buyers, it trained the used market to distrust the Lightning's value permanently. The financial picture inside Ford's EV division was not a secret. Ford is the only traditional automaker that reports its EV results as a separate business unit. And those results were catastrophic in plain sight for 2 consecutive years. In Q1 2024, Ford's Model E division reported a $1.3 billion loss on 10,000 vehicles sold. That is $132,000 lost on every single EV they produced that quarter. Revenue in the division collapsed 84% year over year, almost entirely due to the price cuts Ford had been forced to make. For the full year 2024, Model E lost $5 billion. Through the first 9 months of 2025, another $3.6 billion gone. Ford was not quietly losing money. It was losing money loudly in quarterly earnings calls and SEC filings, on the front pages of every automotive publication in the country. And the entire time, the people inside Ford's showrooms were still selling Lightning trucks to families who believed they were buying into the future of American trucks. They were buying into the end of the first-generation American electric truck. That is a different thing. Understanding how Ford dismantled the Lightning program matters, because it happened gradually enough that most owners did not notice until it was already done. April 2024, Ford cut the Rouge Electric Vehicle Center workforce by 2/3. A plant that had operated 3 shifts went to 1. 700 workers transferred. 700 were offered early retirement. November 2024, Ford announced a 7-week shutdown of Lightning production. The stated reason was high inventory and slowing demand. The shutdown ran from November 18th through January 6th, 2025. Ford's own statement said it was adjusting production for an optimal mix of sales growth and profitability. Translation: they were making more Lightnings than Americans wanted to buy. October 2025, a fire at Novelis, Ford's primary aluminum supplier, created a parts shortage. Ford used the disruption as an opportunity to make a choice. When forced to decide which vehicles to prioritize with limited aluminum, Ford chose gas F-150S and Super Duties. The Lightning, according to Ford, would remain paused. Ford simultaneously announced plans to add 1,000 jobs and increase gas F-150 production by 50,000 units in 2026. December 15th, 2025. Ford confirmed it. Production of the all-electric F-150 Lightning had ended, permanently, 3.5 years after it launched. The 2025 model year was the last. The announcement was not the headline of the press release. It was embedded in the third paragraph of a statement about a next-generation EREV Lightning that has no confirmed launch date, no confirmed price, and no confirmed timeline for reaching dealerships. This is where the numbers need to be heard clearly, because they are not exaggerated. A 2022 F-150 Lightning Lariat that sold new in late 2022 for close to $80,000 is now listing in the high $40,000 range with 10,000 to 15,000 miles on the odometer. That is approximately 40% of value lost in 2.5 years. A 2023 Lightning Pro that originally stickered at $49,995 now carries a fair market value of roughly $26,000 to $32,000, according to CarEdge and Kelley Blue Book data. On a 72-month loan at 7 or 8% interest, the kind of loan many buyers signed in 2022 and 2023, that owner is deeply underwater. Independent analysis projects that most first-generation Lightnings will retain around 40 to 45% of their original MSRP after 5 years. For context, a gas F-150 typically holds 60% or more of its value at the same point. The Toyota Tacoma retains 64% after 5 years and sits at the top of Kelley Blue Book's best resale rankings for 2025. The Lightning is not in the same conversation, and Edmunds reported in Q4 2025 that a record 27% of trade-ins carried 5-figure negative equity, meaning more than $10,000 owed above the car's market value. That is a record high in their dataset. For Lightning owners who financed at peak prices, the math is worse than that average. The people who got hurt are not people who made reckless decisions. They responded to an aggressive marketing campaign from one of the most trusted brands in American automotive history. They put $5,000 down. They signed the paperwork. They drove home in a truck that their CEO had called the most significant vehicle since the Model T. They just did not have this information in time. Ford did not walk away from the Lightning name. The next generation truck is coming. It will be called the F-150 Lightning EREV. It will have a gasoline generator on board, which means it is no longer an electric vehicle in the traditional sense. It is closer to what Chevrolet does with the Volt platform, or what Ram is attempting with the 1500 Rev. Ford claims 700-plus miles of range. It sounds compelling on paper. Here is what Ford has not announced: a launch date, a price, or a delivery timeline for the new truck. Doug Field, Ford's chief EV officer, called the next-generation truck every bit as revolutionary. That is the same language Ford used in 2021 about the truck it just discontinued. For current Lightning owners, the EREV announcement does nothing. It does not restore your trade-in value. It does not stabilize the used market. It does not change what a dealer will offer you tomorrow when you walk in with 48,000 miles on a 2022 XLT. In fact, the opposite is more likely. When a next-generation model is announced, used values of the outgoing model typically drop, not rise, as buyers wait for the new platform. There is no confirmed arrival date. There is no price anchor. There is no reason for the used market to hold steady while it waits. Every depreciation story has a reference point. For electric trucks in America right now, the gas F-150 is the benchmark that matters most. Not as an EV comparison, as a financial protection comparison. The 2025 Toyota Tacoma retained 64% of its value after 5 years, leading Kelley Blue Book's rankings. The gas F-150 holds above 60%. The Ford Bronco holds 57%. These are the vehicles American buyers trust most when things get complicated, and the ones that cost least when everything goes right. The F-150 Lightning was supposed to be in that same conversation. Ford built it that way deliberately. Same body, same bed, same familiar face. The brand equity was the point, but resale value is not built on brand recognition alone. It is built on buyer confidence in parts availability, service network, long-term support, and the certainty that the manufacturer will still be producing the vehicle in 5 years. Ford has now answered that last question. They will not. What you should do today. If you own a Lightning, there is one action that costs nothing and takes 15 minutes. Go to Kelley Blue Book, CarEdge, or CarMax's Instant Offer tool. Get a current valuation on your specific trim, mileage, and condition. Write that number down with today's date. Then calculate the exact payoff amount on your loan. If the payoff amount exceeds your current market value, you are already underwater. Not hypothetically. Right now. Come back in 3 months and run the same numbers. If the gap between what you owe and what the truck is worth is growing faster than your loan payments are reducing it, the market is telling you something specific about your asset. Not general EV pessimism, not short-term volatility. It is pricing the uncertainty around a discontinued vehicle from a brand that has publicly abandoned its first-generation electric truck strategy. That is your signal. The owners who recognize the same pattern with the Chevy Volt, with the Nissan Leaf's first generation, with every first-wave EV that got cut before it found its footing. Those buyers made better decisions because they were watching the numbers, not the press releases. Ford built a genuinely capable truck. The F-150 Lightning, by most objective measures, was a well-engineered, thoughtfully designed vehicle. It is not a bad truck. It was a great truck with a broken business model behind it, and American families who trusted the brand are absorbing the cost of that broken model today. The warning signs were visible. They were in the quarterly earnings calls, in the production cuts, in the workforce reductions, in the price volatility, in the inventory numbers. They were visible before December 15, 2025. Now the announcement has come. And for a lot of Lightning owners, the damage is already done. Subscribe now. Every week we track what is actually moving in the American truck and EV market before the press releases catch up.